Welcome to our channel. Today, we dive into the dark and eerie tales of backpackers who encountered the unimaginable. We're talking about those who ventured out into the wilderness, seeking adventure, only to find themselves face to face with the stuff of nightmares. Brace yourself for 3 terrifying true stories that will have you questioning if you ever want to set foot on a hiking trail again. Deep in the heart of the Pacific Northwest lies a forest so ancient, so vast, that it feels like stepping back in time. Towering pines, their trunks thick with age, blot out the sun, casting long, eerie shadows across the forest floor. It's a place of breathtaking beauty, but also one steeped in unsettling legends. Locals whisper of the spirits that haunt these woods, of hikers who wandered off the trail and were never seen again. This is where our story begins, with a young backpacker named Emily, who was drawn to the allure of the unknown. Emily was an experienced hiker, someone who felt most alive when surrounded by nature's raw power. She set off on a solo trek, eager to escape the noise of everyday life and reconnect with the wilderness. The trail was peaceful at first, the only sounds the chirping of birds and the rustling of leaves underfoot. But as the day wore on, the atmosphere began to shift. The air grew heavy, charged with an almost electrical tension. The sounds of the forest seemed to change too, the once cheery chirps replaced by unsettling clicks and groans that echoed through the trees. Emily pressed on, her unease growing with every step.
Then, as dusk began to settle, I realized I'd lost the trail. Panic surged through me as I stumbled through the undergrowth, my heart pounding in my chest. I called out for help, my voice swallowed by the oppressive silence of the forest.
As darkness enveloped the woods, Emily stumbled upon a clearing, and that's when she saw it. A dilapidated cabin, its windows dark and lifeless. Desperation overriding her fear, she approached, hoping to find shelter for the night. She knocked on the weathered wood, but the sound seemed to hang in the air, unanswered. The door creaked open as if beckoning her inside. The interior was dark and musty, the air thick with the smell of decay. Dust covered every surface, cobwebs draped like macabre decorations. As Emily's eyes adjusted to the dimness, she noticed strange symbols etched into the walls, symbols that sent a shiver down her spine.
I wanted to leave, to turn and run as fast as I could, but the approaching night and the promise of shelter kept me rooted to the spot. I gathered some firewood from the porch and managed to get a fire going in the old stone fireplace, its flickering light doing little to dispel the gloom that clung to the cabin.
As Emily sat huddled by the fire, she couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle from the woods outside sent her heart racing. Then she heard it, a low, guttural growl coming from somewhere deep within the cabin. Her blood ran cold. She was not alone. Slowly, Emily rose to her feet, her eyes scanning the shadows, her every sense on high alert. The growl came again, closer this time, followed by the unmistakable sound of heavy footsteps.
Terror lent me strength, and I fled from the cabin, not daring to look back. I ran through the darkness, my lungs burning, my legs screaming for rest. But the fear of what was behind me kept me going. I ran until I stumbled and fell, my body bruised and exhausted. As I lay there, catching my breath, I could still hear the sounds of my pursuer's slow, deliberate footsteps that seemed to be getting closer. I knew I had to keep moving.
Summoning the last reserves of her strength, Emily staggered to her feet and continued to run, driven by pure adrenaline and fear. She didn't know how long she ran, but as the first rays of dawn pierced through the trees, she stumbled out of the forest and onto a dirt road. A passing motorist saw her and stopped to help, taking her to the nearest town. Emily never went back into those woods. She couldn't bring herself to speak of what she had experienced, the memory too terrifying to relive. But the locals who knew the legends of the haunted forest, they nodded knowingly when they heard her story. They knew that some places are best left undisturbed, that some secrets are meant to remain hidden within the shadows of the trees. Mark, a seasoned backpacker, was on a quest to conquer the Appalachian Trail. He'd been hiking for weeks, his days filled with stunning vistas and the peaceful solitude he craved. One evening, as the sun began to dip below the horizon, casting long shadows through the trees, Mark realized he was running behind schedule. He pushed on, hoping to find a suitable campsite before darkness set in. That's when he saw it, a faint light flickering in the distance. Intrigued, Mark changed course and headed towards the light, his curiosity piqued. As he drew closer, the outline of a small wooden cabin emerged from the trees. It looked old, forgotten, its windows boarded up, and paint peeling. Cautiously, Mark approached, his hand hovering near the hunting knife he carried for protection. He knocked on the door, his voice echoing in the stillness of the woods. Silence. He tried the handle, surprised to find it unlocked. The door creaked open, revealing a dusty interior, untouched by time. Mark stepped inside, his eyes adjusting to the dimness. The air was thick with the smell of mildew and decay, and a musty silence hung heavy in the air. Cobwebs draped every corner, and dust covered the furniture, as if no one had set foot inside for decades.
A shiver ran down my spine, a primal instinct telling me this place was not right. I told myself it was just an old cabin, abandoned long ago, but something about it felt off, unsettling.
Despite the unease creeping up his spine, Mark decided to stay the night. He needed shelter, and the thought of setting up camp in the growing darkness held little appeal. He found some candles and matches, their flickering flames casting dancing shadows on the walls. As he explored further, he discovered a trapdoor hidden beneath a rug. Curiosity got the better of him. He carefully lifted the heavy door, revealing a set of rickety wooden stairs leading down into darkness.
Armed with my flashlight and a growing sense of dread, I descended into the unknown. The air grew noticeably colder as I climbed down the stairs, the musty smell intensifying. The beam of my flashlight danced across the earthen walls, revealing shelves filled with jars containing unidentifiable substances.
At the bottom of the stairs, Mark found himself in a small, dirt-floored room. A single lantern cast a dim, flickering light, revealing strange symbols and diagrams drawn on the walls. They looked ancient, ritualistic, and sent a fresh wave of unease washing over Mark. He recognized some of the symbols from his interest in the occult, symbols of protection, of warding off evil. But what kind of evil would require such measures in this isolated cabin?
My heart pounded in my chest, my senses on high alert. I felt a presence in this room, something unseen watching me from the shadows. I could hear my own breath echoing in the silence, and I swore I could feel the hair on the back of my neck stand on end. I knew I shouldn't be here, that I should turn back and leave this place undisturbed. But a morbid fascination held me captive, urging me to uncover the secrets hidden within these walls.
Turning back, Mark carefully made his way back up the stairs, closing the trapdoor behind him. He tried to rationalize his fear, telling himself it was just an old hidden room, probably used for storage by the cabin's former occupants. But deep down, a part of him knew that something about this place was deeply wrong. Despite his best efforts to sleep, Mark spent a restless night, haunted by the unsettling feeling of being watched. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle from the wind outside the cabin, sent his heart racing. He kept seeing the strange symbols in his mind's eye, their cryptic messages fueling his unease.
As soon as dawn broke, I packed my belongings and fled the cabin, eager to put as much distance between myself and the unsettling place as possible. I never looked back, but the memory of that night, the oppressive atmosphere and the feeling of unseen eyes upon me stayed with me long after I left the cabin behind.
Sarah, a free-spirited adventurer, was backpacking solo through Southeast Asia, immersing herself in the vibrant cultures and breathtaking landscapes. She'd been on the road for months, her backpack filled with memories and souvenirs. One day, while trekking through a remote jungle in northern Thailand, I strayed from the marked path, drawn by the allure of a hidden waterfall I'd heard whispers of from locals. The trail, if you could call it that, was treacherous, overgrown and barely discernible beneath a carpet of fallen leaves. But I was undeterred, my adventurous spirit urging me forward. The air was thick with humidity, the only sounds the constant buzz of insects and the occasional screech of exotic birds. As she ventured deeper into the jungle, the foliage grew denser, the sunlight struggling to penetrate the thick canopy above. Sarah soon realized she was hopelessly lost. Panic began to set in as I tried to retrace my steps, but every turn seemed to lead me further astray. Just when my hope began to dwindle, I stumbled upon a clearing. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. In the center of the clearing stood a group of men, their faces hardened and unwelcoming. They were armed with machetes and rifles, their presence radiating danger. My blood ran cold as I realized I'd stumbled into something far more dangerous than getting lost. Instinct took over. She turned to flee, but it was too late. The men had seen her. They surrounded her, their faces grim, their words a torrent of a language she didn't understand. Fear pulsed through her veins, but Sarah refused to give in to panic. She knew that her survival depended on her ability to stay calm and assess the situation. They forced me to walk with them, deeper into the jungle, until we reached a makeshift camp hidden amongst the trees. They bound my hands and feet and left me under the watchful eye of one of the men, a menacing figure who barely moved a muscle. As darkness fell, they brought me some food, a meager portion of rice and vegetables. Exhausted and terrified, I ate mechanically, my mind racing, desperately searching for a way out. She studied her captors, their routines, their weaknesses, clinging to the hope that a chance of escape might present itself. Days turned into nights. Sarah lost track of time, the endless monotony punctuated only by the pangs of hunger and the ever-present fear that gnawed at her sanity. But amidst the despair, a glimmer of hope emerged. I noticed that the man guarding me would occasionally doze off, lulled by the oppressive heat and the drone of insects. It was a risky plan, but it was my only chance. One afternoon, while my captor's eyes were closed, I began to slowly and silently work on my bonds. My hands, raw and sore, struggled against the rough ropes, but fueled by adrenaline and desperation, I persisted. After what felt like an eternity, I managed to free myself. My heart pounded in my chest, threatening to give me away. But my captor remained oblivious, his chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm of sleep. With agonizing slowness, Sarah rose to her feet, her muscles aching from days of captivity. She moved silently, avoiding dry leaves and snapping twigs. Every rustle of foliage, every chirp of an insect sounded deafening in the stillness of the jungle. Reaching the edge of the camp, Sarah didn't hesitate. She ran, her lungs burning, her legs screaming for rest. But the fear of being recaptured spurred her on, pushing her beyond her limits. She ran until she could run no more, collapsing beneath the tangled undergrowth, her body racked with exhaustion. But she had escaped, lost and alone, but free. I eventually found my way back to civilization, my ordeal leaving an indelible mark on my soul. I returned home, forever changed by my experience, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. These stories remind us of the unexpected dangers that can lurk in the most serene places. Whether it's the unexplained phenomena of a haunted forest, the unsettling secrets hidden within an abandoned cabin, or the very real threat of encountering dangerous individuals, the wilderness can be an unforgiving place. Stay safe and always be prepared for the unknown. Let these tales serve as a reminder to trust your instincts, be aware of your surroundings, and never underestimate the power of the human spirit to overcome even the most harrowing of experiences. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more spine-chilling tales. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, sometimes the most terrifying monsters are the ones we don't see coming.